Hey, it's Dr. Manny from Break the Cage MD. It's a short and sweet video. The idea is how to prevent physician burnout from spiraling into depression and suicide. So, there are a couple specific words I'm going to be using. They're words from organizational development. One of them is from psychiatry, but this is a case where the words are important. So, the words are, hold on. First, I'm going to make sure I don't get stung by this bee. Okay, so the words are traction, intractable problem, distraction, and abstraction. You notice that they all have the root word traction. They also have a sub element of the word action. That's because in semantics, we would say those words are they're in semantic proximity. That means that in your mind, you map them as kind of related concepts. Okay, so let's jump into it. So, burnout, in the case of a burnout, you end up with a state of learned helplessness. Um, you get where you're you're so frustrated with not being able to get results that you start imagining your situation as an intractable problem. That means you feel as if you can't get traction. You can't. Still fighting bees. Uh, you aren't that your actions aren't moving you forward towards your goal. Uh, you develop a sense of learned helplessness. You learn that you're helpless. That's what basically the root of that. Now, with an intractable problem, you fix that by developing traction. There, in behavior and in group dynamics, you develop traction by noticing specific patterns in behavior, in your own behavior, in the people that you're interacting with, in group behaviors, in situational context. So that's it's called situational intelligence. There are three hooks that happen in your mind where you give up traction, and when you can notice those hooks and you're aware that they exist, you can become more you can become more alert and oriented to your environment and notice opportunities to gain some traction. So, three hooks. The first hook is, and they're all called discounting techniques, and it means you're discounting your ability to do something. You're paying less attention in your mind to it. The first one is you discount that the situation exists. That's outright denial. So I like to use the metaphor that I'm walking, I have a rock in my shoe. I ignore entirely that I have the rock in my shoe. I keep walking. Um, if you want a neurological example, imagine patients who end up losing a toe to diabetes or losing a whole foot because there's no signal going there. Your brain can do that. It never enters your consciousness. That's level one. Level two is you discount the severity of the stimulus. You discount how bad the problem is. So if I'm walking, rocking my shoe, I notice it, okay, but it's not that bad. So instead of doing something about it, I keep walking with the rock in my shoe and I say it's not that bad. Now, it is that bad usually. The situation is draining energy from you along the way. It's decreasing optimal performance and it's death by a thousand cuts. You get all these little micro situations that you say are not that bad, and at the end of each day, you're drained. You're performing less effectively. You're listening to your patients less effectively. You're losing your chance to go into flow, into being a fully functional, fully focused physician because there is this distraction now. And once again, you're not lined up with your feedback. The third one is discounting your ability to do anything about the problem. So in that case, I know there's a rock in my shoe, so I'm aware of it. I admit that it's a pain in the ass, so I'm not discounting the severity of the pain. But I tell myself there's nothing I can do about it, so I live with it. So you've given away the power that the feedback gives you, the information gives you, by discounting your ability to do anything about it. So those are the three levels. Now, you'll hear in a lot of cases that denial is the longest river in Egypt. Denial is the mechanism through which you spiral into learned helplessness. You're like one of those three mechanisms where you don't do anything. The opposite of that is when you take action, not activity, which is you do busy work and, you know, frenetic shit to make yourself feel better. And at the end of the day, you're tired, but you haven't moved towards your goal any better. But not activity, but action, not busy work, but goal directed behavior that you measure and you compare to what it is you want to accomplish. Uh, that means dealing with failure. That means acknowledging failure as part of your feedback. That means setting specific goals so you know when at the end of the day you didn't do the things you wanted to do. Okay? That's the most important, excuse me, that's the most important thing in scripted behavior. You break scripts with what are called pattern interrupts. Pattern interrupts are when you change the way you attend to the environment so you can break a script. Uh, I can create a pattern interrupt from outside of your mind by startling you, scaring you, pointing out something gross, arousing you, just anything that alerts and orients you, creating this norepinephrine spark and alertness and acetylcholine attentiveness. Um, but by realizing those three hooks, you create your own affordances. You create your own opportunities to take an intractable problem, a problem that you can't find hooks into, and gaining traction. Okay? Dr. Manny, break the cage, MD.